Welcome back to another episode of the Concession Stand podcast, our second ever episode. The best sports podcast in town because, well, I said it's best podcast, and actually, I don't know how many sport podcasts there actually are in our town. I don't know. Anyways, I'm your host, co-host, Frying Gaming. This is your other co-host, Chikatay Gaming. Say hi.
Salam.
We got a couple things to discuss today, including some breaking news, but we'll get to that breaking news part later. Because Straight Take Gaming has told me he has a personal story that he wants to tell you first. So take it away, my friend.
Go ahead. Okay, so I want to give a little context here, right? I played House League for my city, and it's traveling, and you move around, whatever. Cool. I had a game, and it was my final ever game, playing like youth, quote unquote youth, baseball, and we were playing north. I'm not going to say where. It was a little more north than where I live for the end of the year tournament, and that was my last game because we couldn't get enough players for the next day. So I'm like, whatever happens, happens. Pre-context, we've played there before, and this will lead into our conversation after this of like refs, but the umpires there were brutal. And
This is all very new to me. For some hearing this.
Yeah, so I kind of gave Jonah a brief explanation of what
Not the full
happened,
thing.
but not the full thing. So this is the full thing. So I'll explain what happened, and then I'll explain what it should have been. What happened is it was the final inning, and it went into extras, and we were up, and I was called in to pitch. I walked the first guy. I think I walked the second guy because whatever, bases loaded or something like that. I don't know. Might have even been the second batter. I am I got strike one, like ball one, whatever. Get to a something two count, so two strikes. Throw the ball. Strike three. Guy swings. Catcher drops it. Which usually, if a catcher drops it, the batter is able to run.
Yeah.
Except when first base is occupied. And first base was occupied, which means he can't run. Makes sense, right?
Yeah.
Anyways, play goes down. I look over. I'm like, there's someone at first. You can't run. So, as an umpire, usually I don't complain about calls unless they're really bad. This was one of the worst calls I've seen. So I'm like, this is completely wrong. And I'm kind of angry because it's the final game and it's whatever, and I want to win.
Yeah, kind of hard to hold in your emotions in that kind of situation.
Yeah, so I'm like, this is the wrong call and this and that. And like, you guys are really throwing the game here and this and that. And everyone knows it's the wrong call except the umpires. The umpires are like, nope. It was the right call. So
I think everyone's right.
It ends up, yeah, they always get it. Always seems to be those umpires. That's set, anyways. I keep going on, which I probably should have shut up, but no one was telling me to shut up. So I keep
going.
Yeah, their coach was like, all right, whatever. I keep going on, like, you guys are really throwing the game here. You're really doing this, really doing that. Like, you get it. You want to go home, but this isn't the way to do it. If you call the strike, game's over. Like, it'll be over. The umpire goes, you want to be ejected? He's like, no, it's a right call. I'm like, it's not. He's like, you want to be ejected. And I turned to him. I'm like, I don't care. Do it.
Do it.
Do it. Because he has to fill out paperwork after. So,
You coward.
Yeah, do it, you coward. Fill out paperwork. No, but he goes, wow. And I'm like, I keep going, and he tosses me. And I'm like, all right, whatever. Turns out that the chief who was there was going to talk to them.
Yeah.
So they end up changing the call, and it's right, and I'm still ejected, and we lose. Whatever. So the situation is, I think it was bases loaded, drop strike three. The rule on drop strike threes is kind of confusing, but at the same time, once you understand it, you know it.
Yeah.
It's pretty simple, but also
So
Drop strike three. Drop strike three.
Yeah.
So catcher drops the ball, goes by, wild pitch, whatever, swing, whatever it is.
Drop strike three. It's not like the batter gets to like make an attempt to run to first.
So
in
on
that
a
scenario.
Yeah. So on a drop strike three, drop third strike, batter can run to first base if it is unoccupied.
Mm-hmm.
Keep in mind the unoccupied. That is the important key in this situation.
Mm-hmm.
The batter, I'm not going off rules. This is what I know because I've been umpiring for 4 years, 4-ish years, 4 years. I've dealt with this.
I hope you know what the rule would be in that case.
These other umpires are older than me, and they should know it. They don't.
They often don't.
So on a dropped strike three with first base occupied, so there is a runner on first base prior to the pitch. Keep in mind, prior to the pitch.
Mm-hmm.
So if he steals, it's still occupied because he's not like he's going for it, but he's still technically at first. The runner or the batter is not allowed to run. Makes sense. Unless there's 2 outs, which is the only exception for anything, because then it just gives anything, because there's still a possibility that something can happen with 2 outs.
Yeah.
Right. So there's a possibility. But if it's less than 2 outs, it's a no-go. You don't go. That is, everyone understands the rule. Everybody knows that rule. If it's occupied, nobody goes. The runners can steal. Still, if it's wild, but the batter is out. These guys were arguing, or the umpires were saying that it wasn't occupied because of whatever, and the guy was safe. He had free will.
Yeah.
Except he couldn't do free will because there was 1 out, and you can't run. You kind of see where I'm getting pissed. You kind of see where I can get pissed because they don't. You're doing an older kid's game, and you don't know a basic rule. Earlier in the game, this is they called out one of my teammates on wearing a first baseman's glove at second base. Keep in mind, in house league,
what
usually because he only owned a first baseman's glove.
That's weird.
Only owned a first. He didn't own any other. His reasoning was, this is like my last year. I'm not going to buy a new glove for 1 year. Makes sense. You use what you can use.
I'm guessing they're probably pretty expensive, I would assume, right?
My glove that I've used was like $80, but like you get to higher ends, they're $400. They're expensive.
Yeah, I've never really played sports at all, so
no,
that's
okay.
I wouldn't be familiar with the pricing of like equipment, but
Long story short,
I always assumed it was very expensive.
Long story short, it's not cheap. But he's like, I don't have a glove, and this town is the only town that's called him out on it. Technically, it is illegal, but for house league, where like there's certain rules in house league, you kind of just slide under the rug. You're like, okay, these kids are playing to have fun. There's another rule where you can't use like a light glove if you're pitching, like a white or a bright tan, because it can hide the ball or whatever. That's a rule where in house league you kind of just slide because they're not going to go out and get a different glove in the middle of the game, and they only probably own one because it's house league. They're doing it for fun. They just got what they got.
Yeah,
it's not high level where we have three different gloves for 8 different positions. No, it's you get one. So they know certain rules, but they don't know the right rules, which is very easily able to get people pissed off. Because if you don't know, because you learn that drop strike 3 rule like the first day. You learn how to call strikes, how to call outs, how to call safe, and then what the drop strike 3 rule is. One of the first 3, like one of the first set of things you learn. But usually when someone argues, you say, from experience, you would say, okay, I'll talk to my partner, I'll come back to you. Go talk to him, talk it through. What did you see? What did you see? What's the rule? Do you know it? No. Do you know it? Yeah. Makes sense, right? They weren't even willing to go talk to each other. They just wanted to leave. which is going to bring in the next argument, or the next topic, I guess. And this is more towards, because I could have just been having a rough day, whatever. I get it. Been there, done that. But this goes more towards people who do it professionally. The Angel Hernandezes, the Joe Wesses, the CB Buckners. Should some referees have the ability or have the job to ref or call a sports game, which people are getting paid for, which people are betting on? If should they be able to? Because you have great umpires, you have great, people.
Yeah, it's not like they're all horrible.
No, it's not.
But it's just the horror. I mean, no one talks about the good ones because again, there's stuff to talk about if you just umpired a normal game. There's nothing really to talk about. But if you do a horrible one, everyone's going to be talking about it.
Yeah,
especially if you made a bunch of bad calls that actually had a direct impact on how the game went. Of course, you're going to have a lot of people will be talking about it afterwards.
I did a game last night. Not last night. We're recording this on a Friday. I did it Wednesday. I think I made maybe 2 wrong calls. Nobody talked about it. It was you guys did great. Cool, thanks.
Yeah,
it was behind the plate.
You're almost never perfect. You're bound to make at least 1 or 2 errors. You might get a strike. Maybe it was off and maybe it was actually a ball or other way around. But even if it's maybe an error, a 50-50 call, I would think. Yeah. You're not going to get every single one perfect.
Yeah, but usually you have someone backing you up. I get it if you're doing a house league game or a kids game where, okay, grand scheme of things doesn't mean much. They're just here to have fun with a little competitive edge. Cool. You get paid. Just try to do the best you can. There's kind of a universal agreement with that. Which, some people have tough days, so they kind of, I've been there, it's kind of messed with my calls. It's messed with, how I see things, how I take things. I've had great days where it's been, someone could be screaming at my face saying I'm the worst umpire ever. I'd be like, thanks, thanks, guy. It's just how it works. But it's that understanding of how difficult a job for a minor league or a little league is. When you come to professional, these guys train. They train. And you would think, oh, the referees, they don't train. They show up and they get paid and they do whatever. They train for calls and they go, that's their life's work. They work. They have the off season like baseball. They get paid during the season. I think they go off salary. I don't know if they get paid a lot.
Yeah, I would assume so.
You have to deal with a lot as an umpire and as a ref, which is insane. But you do whatever, right? But there's it's
not an easy job.
It's not an easy job.
Especially because you're gonna have players would be screaming at you if they don't like a call you make, or coaches screaming at you if they don't like a call you make, or
somebody's going to be upset.
You, or if it's a little league game, you have parents that are screaming at you. Yeah, you get a lot of psychological abuse.
Oh, 100%.
I think I think I can put it like that. Yeah,
with sports and being the official, nobody's going to always be happy with the call. Even if it's the right call, somebody's going to be, oh, come on. Because, they're biased to their team. It should have been one way. It should have been the other way. I get it. I've been there. There was a kid, another little story. There's a kid I rung up on strike 3. And he turned it, because it was a good pitch and whatever. He turned to me. He kind of did a little shocked face. I was fine with it, because I'm as a player, I get it. You're competitive. This is a high-level game. He was 12. It's a pretty high level game, I'm not gonna be upset by it because it's competitive. I understand. I've been there. I've done that. Okay, hey buddy, next time. I understand where you're at. Just don't do it again. You're not in trouble. You're fine. Just try to keep it in check. Okay, cool. And they walk off and they're like, my bad. Move on. Then you have the Angel Hernandezes.
Yeah.
Who calling them like Helen Keller would be too nice.
Or like that one game he had a couple years ago when he had like 4 of his calls overturned on
Oh yeah, in the
replay.
playoffs or whatever.
It was in a playoffs game. Yeah, he had like 4 of his calls at like
Mm-hmm.
first base were like overturned on replay.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and also what the lawsuit where he claimed that because they wouldn't let him officiate like World Series games, and it was because he was like Hispanic, so it was
No,
racism. But then the
Cuban,
court ruled that no, they basically said no, they had every right to do it because he sucked, not because of his race.
and they should
Yeah.
honestly, because like I said, professional. They train.
Mm-hmm.
There's something like baseball where it's pretty slow moving. If you make a call like I like doing behind the plate because if I mess up a strike call, it most likely won't have an effect on the game. If it does, it does. But
Yeah.
I always have a chance. I could, another close call, I could call a ball for a little makeup. Like it's just how it works. When you're doing the bases, and I'm talking baseball because that's all I've done. When you're doing the bases, you have so much more on the line because an out call or a safe call can change the game entirely. Mm-hmm. Momentum could be on team A, switched right to team B off a messed up call. But usually you have like 2 sets of eyes on it, so you go and one person will catch it because usually it's just how it works. But I know in hockey, because hockey and even football, I don't know about soccer. Soccer, I know there's like 2 refs on the field, 2 on either side. Is it 2 in the middle or is it 1?
It's 1, but also now they have like the video ones that kind of go around to try to correct any mistake that the on the field ref makes.
But that's another
especially
thing.
if it's in like a big moment. But that's like even that in itself, the video thing is like really controversial.
Well, yeah, because it's the angle, but it's still like soccer. You have 1 guy in the middle. He can't see everything. Hockey, you have 4 guys, but they're all watching so many different things that you'll have times where there will be blind spots.
They might miss something that happened.
Yeah, in football, you have a bunch of refs, but they're all looking at different things. They're all not looking at the ball. One's looking at the line, the offense and Lux again to me. The offense and defense. One will be looking at the receivers. One will be looking at the quarterback. One will be looking deep. One will be looking like a short in the middle where the safeties are. So many things to watch that if they get a call wrong, somebody else can't see it because they're watching one single thing. So that's why when you see in hockey, they're going to miss maybe a interference or a trip or a boarding or whatever it is. It's because they're all doing and they're moving and they're doing so many different things that it's difficult.
Yeah.
Which I get it. Heat of the moment, you're upset, but you missed it. Difficult, couldn't see. But with baseball, I think baseball, maybe cricket, but I don't watch a lot of cricket. I don't watch any cricket. I just see highlights.
I don't know anything about cricket, and I'm part Australian. They love cricket over there, but I don't know a single.
I would love to try cricket one day, but
no, it's not. No one ever really talks about it here in this country.
No, but in baseball, it's one of those sports where you do have that extra set of eyes most of the time. Because I know I will, if I'm on the bases and someone's on base and nobody's stealing, and if there's a call which I know is wrong, I'll maybe give them a sign or something, or try to say, that one wasn't right, that was outside, whatever. But baseball's such a one official job.
Yeah.
Because there's one official in the majors at least, one official for each bag watching one thing, maybe 2-3 different things. Like you have to watch the ball hit the glove, you have to watch the foot hit the base, you have to make sure the catcher or the fielder's foot is on the bag. You have to be multitasking while
Mm-hmm.
also knowing where the play's going next. There's so many things that you have to do that it's a difficult job.
Mm-hmm.
But just not knowing basic rules, like my umpire, is just sad.
Yeah, I would think so. Yeah.
Yeah. And then you have, like, Angel Hernandez, who just can't call anything for his life. You have the Joe West, who just
I mean, he's not really in there anymore, but
no, but you had
I
the
would
Joe
come back
West.
because he was like awful,
Mhm.
and yet he was like the longest serving umpire, I believe.
But these
He's in there for
guys,
like 40 plus years up until he like retired last year.
but the MLB won't fire them because they're, I don't want to say,
I guess
like, with
they can't fire them.
no, you pretty much umpire till you retire. If they fire
Yeah.
you, there's a reason for it. It's not just
Mm-hmm.
because you're bad. It's because you've done something.
It has to be like, oh, you like bet on games, or you were
Or
involved in like match fixing or something like that, or
yeah, or you've
something like that, probably. Yeah,
like sport, like whatever,
unsportsmanlike
yeah,
conduct or something like that,
something like
probably.
that. But yeah, that's my story. Since it went on for like 20 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry about that. The refs,
20,
some
20 minutes. You know that was very interesting.
yeah, some should be, some shouldn't be. How it
Mhm.
works, just basic. It's just sports.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not gonna actually properly edit this, but breaking news.
Actually, hold on. I'll bring it up. I'm just looking at the exact what I was looking for. All right.
I see.
So yeah, I did say we had breaking news, but I obviously want to keep that on hold. Well, you take it and tell us the story. Okay, here you go. So this is what it was. So I'm pulling up. Breaking. Padres star Fernando Tatis Jr. violated Major League Baseball's performance-enhancing drug policy and is facing a suspension. Sources familiar with the situation told ESPN. And then here's an update down here that said he'll be suspended for 80 games. That will be announced. The suspension will cover the remainder of the season and render him ineligible for the postseason. It will continue into the beginning of next year.
Wow.
And when it comes to on the verge of returning, he's done for the year. So yeah, that happened.
I saw something,
I think.
which is interesting because he's young. So I saw something on Instagram where it was the reason he was
Where
taking
was
them.
it specifically on Instagram? I don't know.
I think it was a tweet by Sportsnet, or not a tweet, but a post by Sportsnet. I'll see if I can find it again.
Okay, yeah, because I
Maybe I
didn't
won't be able.
see anything like that, so I'd have to look that up.
Okay. This is a statement from Tatis. This
Mhm.
is from 368 Baseball.
Yeah.
The Players Association issued a statement on behalf of Tatis.
Yeah.
So, quote, I've been informed by the MLB that the test sample I submitted returned a positive result for cholesterol. COL.
That's actually something I'm not familiar with.
CLOSTEBOL.
Actually, what was it spelled again? C
LOST.
CLOST. Oh, I found it. Okay.
BOL. A banned substance. It turns out I inadvertently took a medication to treat ringworm that contains cholesterol. I should have used the resources available to me in order to ensure that no banned substances were in what I took. I failed to do so. I want to apologize to Peter, AJ, and the entire Padres organization, yada, yada, yada. I have no excuse for my error. I would never do anything to cheat or disrespect the game I love. I have taken countless drug tests throughout my professional career, including on March 29, 2022, all of which have returned negative until this test. I am completely devastated. This is nowhere else in my world. I'd rather be on the field competing with my teammates. After initially appealing the suspension, I realized that my mistake was the cause of this result, and for my reason, I've decided to start serving my suspension immediately. I look forward to rejoining my teammates on the field in 2023. So, I don't know. I'm not sure if you did some research on it.
Looking up the Dragon Balls and stuff. It seems like it's usually used to treat skin conditions, but it is also used for performance enhancing. I think it was first used that way, at least from looking up. It's been used as a performance enhancer for like decades.
Well, it's clearly banned.
And it is banned. Yeah, there's a couple of MLB players, like I think Freddie Galvis got banned a couple years back for doing it. So did D. Gordon. And it's happened in other sports too. And also apparently it was used as a initially used as a systemic doping thing for like East Germany's Olympic team back in like the 70s and 80s to like get an advantage.
Yes. No, but
Yeah.
for it to
So you
treat,
see, it's a very long history of being used as a performance enhancer.
yeah, but it's such a interesting thing because with the
That's very big.
prescriptions,
He's one of the biggest brands in the whole game.
yeah, but with prescriptions for injuries and um like something like ringworm, which is, don't you turn off your camera.
I just turned it off for a second. Hold on, there you go.
Cool. Load. Cool. So something like ringworm, where it's treatable.
Just cut that out.
Nah, no,
Okay,
no
okay.
cutouts. No, unedited. But it's such a weird thing because you have something where you're treating it, but it's also what you're being treated with is not legal in your sport because of its benefits of performance.
Mm-hmm.
It's such a weird thing because you want to get better,
Yeah.
but also being prescribed something where you don't really know, I guess, what's in it
Mm-hmm.
is interesting. Oh, we can also talk about that. Might be a later podcast, but I can almost relate this to, it was the WWE 1990 something
I'll let him
steroid.
take it from here.
Yeah, so I can.
Know anything about the WWE, so just let him take it from here.
But it in the 90s, WWE was sued. I forget by who, but by someone, or they're taken to court for steroids.
Well,
that's not
the last I knew. I knew they were sued. Like they had actually changed their name to the WWE around that point.
Yeah, a lot
Because
of
they got
things.
sued by like the World Wildlife Fund all the way back then. I know that lawsuit.
No, but there's I watched a video or a documentary on it, and it was called The Steroid Trials, and it was where
Mm-hmm.
a doctor was prescribing steroids to the wrestlers in the 80s. And if you look up the WWE in the 80s, everyone is jacked.
Mm-hmm.
Very few could actually get that jacked without roids. Very many got that jacked with roids. So he would prescribe it to the top wrestlers like Hulk Hogan. As
Yeah, I was thinking like Hulk Hogan.
yeah, he was one of them, one of the main ones, and he throughout his career was.
I can't think of that many wrestlers back then. I don't know, Ric Flair.
No, I don't think he was
I don't
doing
know if it was
roids.
him. I don't
Whoever was jacked
know. Mm-hmm.
probably took roids.
Mm-hmm.
So they would go to court, and it was, this and that, that and this, and because the doctor was prescribing steroids.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the differing between this Tatis and, other than illness, and the steroid trials, was the wrestlers knew what they were taking. Tatis didn't, or allegedly didn't. This is a thing where you see it kind of happen a lot, where they allegedly don't know what they're taking. They're just,
well, that might not be true. It could just be like a cover to say, "Oh, I didn't know this." But
that's
sometimes that doesn't mean he's 100% a liar, but we don't know that.
That's why
Of course.
the key word in that was allegedly, because nobody knows. Nobody truly knows what he was taking other than him, unless he truly doesn't know what he was taking, which I'm not going to say he did, because I don't want to throw that rumor around if it is a rumor. But from what it sounds like, ringworm, I don't think you would make up a lie about ringworm.
Yeah, that's not something I would think
If
you
you
try to lie about.
considering
But
it's like how descriptive saying ringworm is, not an illness, but it's one of those things where it's if your doctor or your team doctor, whoever is prescribing you the meds, they should know what's in it. And if they don't, then they should be fired. Because if you're doing that, and because now MLB is so up everyone's ass about drug tests.
Well, I have to because like what as recently as like 20 plus years, 20, 25 years ago, they didn't do any such testing whatsoever. They just let people do whatever they want. Very different. That's when like all the top players were doing it.
Yeah, but if you think about 25 years ago or 15 years ago, Barry Bonds, drug tests for him weren't a thing. I think even like the MLB had a steroid trial with like Mark McGwire, Sammy Sosa.
They did have something like that, I think, in front of like Congress or something like that. But that's a close thing.
I remember seeing a video on Mark McGwire
like 20 years ago or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. But you see it and it's like, okay. And there's always that, you know, they always say either they admit to it or they don't. And with something like that where it was he said he had ringworm, he said he had this, he said he, you know, would never, and there's no prior history to it. In the middle of a season, unless it is for treating something, why would he just randomly start taking steroids?
Yeah.
Which, you know, Tatis, a great player, coming up. He's not a rookie, but he's still young.
He's probably, I think you consider him one of the best. I mean, he's also one of the biggest brands.
Yeah. He's also in the prime of his
people.
He's just before the prime of his career. If not, he's already in it. Like he's not like he's just been injured. Just always on the IL for something. But
I mean, also again the motorcycle thing from like last year.
There's always something. He's always doing something.
Yeah.
But for being a first time in the middle of the season, probably because he was injured, right? Probably for rehab.
But he's had a lot of injuries already in his career.
Yeah. Like, probably for rehab. Maybe they gave him a pill to help with the ringworm because he got it during rehab or something like that. Then it screwed him over. Whatever. It's just... You don't see him doing that. Which I'm probably going to take, unless he comes out later and says, you know, I knew I was taking it, which I doubt he will.
He wouldn't say, I mean, if he ever did, that's something like he would say, like, well after his career is already over. And do
yeah.
Like, McGwire
then
he only admitted to actually doing it until, like, years after his
Even
career
then, he didn't even admit to it. He was kind of like, we're not going to talk about the past.
I didn't do it to, or I never used it to, no, but he also had that interview a couple years later where he did admit to doing it, but he tried to insist it wasn't to give him like a competitive advantage. It was like injury healing, and yeah, he only did it when it was like obviously he wasn't going to get into like the Hall of Fame because of it.
Well, yeah, but like the whole injury thing is, I remember I did something. I don't know what I did, but I ended up messing up my throat or my lungs or something, and I was given like a puffer, like an inhaler, and it was steroids, but it wasn't like performance enhancing. It was kind of just steroids to help whatever. I don't even remember what I had, but a lot of things that, like, going back to the medical stuff, can be treated with steroids, and performance enhancing and health fixing are two different things. And I think that when you get into a whole thing about steroids too, because I think some that are to fix injuries shouldn't be banned. Something like that one where if there was medical reasons why he was given to it, then he gets an exception. But then that brings in the point of, oh, I had this too, so that's why I'm taking it. So, I don't know. That's such a confusing thing. What's your thoughts on it, Jonah? I feel like I've been talking most of this.
Well, But because you have.
Oh, my bad.
Well, I mean, I don't know. It's complicated. I mean, they've got testing. At least they do. I mean, that's. I mean, I think they do catch some people, but obviously, I don't think they catch everyone. I mean, I kind of don't know what to do in this case. Because I mean, in that case, if you say, "Oh, I want this one banned," because I need this, but also like it does kind of sound like you did know you were taking it, and it wasn't like, "Oh, it was by accident."
Yeah.
It's complicated,
Yeah,
pretty complicated. I don't know
it
what.
is. Okay, next talking point. We'll move on from steroids. We'll move on from Fernando Tatis, and hopefully move on from baseball. But I feel like we're gonna come right back to it because there's so much going on in the world of baseball.
Well, I mean, that's because it's kind of one of the only things like of like team sports. At least it's like the only one that's actually on right now. Like what we only just got started the NFL preseason, and like what NHL and NBA don't even start until much after the NFL season starts. So
True.
this is kind of like the only thing that's going on right now.
My computer is running very slowly, so I wouldn't be
But
surprised if it's
what? But
lagging.
something that is happening right now, juniors. Now, usually that happens like December, like right after Christmas and Boxing Day, or like right around then here. But it was it was like postponed because what I'm pretty sure like what you had like 3 or 4 teams, like I think like Team USA bid,
Oh,
so they couldn't compete anymore. And then ended up like totally like shutting it down in December, and decided to not cancel altogether, but instead try playing it in August, which is not obviously they never play it in August. They don't really ever do it. They don't really play any kind of professional hockey in August. That doesn't really ever happen,
I see.
but it did because of that. But then also that's probably I think they're hosting in Edmonton, and I did notice that like the crowds for well basically every game there's like pretty close to empty crowds. Like you have this one pretty sure it was like a Team USA versus like Team Switzerland match that had like 10 people max in it,
Yeah.
and then even games all in Canada, which of course it's played in Edmonton, so you'd think there'd be a lot of people there, but no, that actually it was like well under 50% capacity, and I think there's definitely a couple of reasons. Obviously, again, it's played in August, that's not around the usual time. Also, and but I think the big one, and obviously the big elephant room, is like the massive amount of scandals that are surrounding Hockey Canada.
Ah,
I
yes.
would assume, yeah.
Do you want to give a quick little, try to give a quick little explanation of what's going on with that?
So basically, I think what happened was, at least to give a ludicrously brief summary. So what happened was that about like the 2018 World Junior squad, so the one from like 4 years ago. It was at a gala. So that team had won gold. They won the tournament. I think they beat the United States to win gold that year. And they had some like gala celebrating it in London, Ontario, and there's an accusation that I think about 8 of the players I believe had like sexually assaulted a woman there, and and I think just recently Hockey Canada, and I think she like there was no criminal charges. Um but Hockey Canada did recently settle a lawsuit with the woman for a couple $1 million. That was like a month ago, but we didn't really know about it up until very recently, and then once the whole news kind of broke out, it was really bad. And I think the way it is that they basically kind of tried to cover it up. Uh, and it got bad to the point where like all their major sponsors, so you had like Tim Hortons, big sponsor poll that they stopped funding it. So did Esso, so did Canadian Tire. It was like the big sponsors of Hockey Canada. They just
Yeah.
right gone. They withdrew their funding, and also the government of Canada, because Hockey Canada, and I think it's the case with like all the sports organizations, they're all government funded. At least in the case of Hockey Canada, once because it turns out they actually used government funds, so like taxpayer dollars, to settle lawsuits, not just this one, but a number of other lawsuits over the last like 30 or so years. So once that was discovered, then the government, yeah, they stopped funding it, and now there's like a bunch of investigations going on with it. I believe even recently now there's accusations around the 2003 World Juniors team over some other
Yeah,
accusations, I
I
believe
was
as
just
well.
about to talk about that because I found it.
Mhm.
It's CBC.
Yeah.
Yeah. So an investigation. Police have opened an investigation in uh police in
Oh yeah, and I'll
Halifax.
throw out that yeah, the police are also like reopening their investigations into both that and the 2018 one in London. They reopened their investigation
Yeah.
into that.
There's also so what I see here is there were three separate cases. So
Mm-hmm.
now recently in 2018, which has been was it 2018 that was yeah
It was like
2018,
4 years ago.
which was
Yeah.
8 CHL players, including members of the World Juniors team in Canada.
Mm-hmm.
2003, which was 6 Team Canada players,
Mm-hmm.
and which was a sexual assault. And in 1989, 21 people of the Canadian or Hockey Canada having or alleging sexual misconduct. So it's
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot going on.
And
The,
I think it's. I would also point out that the whole thing has like heavily, and I really do mean heavily, tarnished its branding. I mean,
oh yeah,
as I just said, they lost their all their major sponsors. That's their big money
yeah,
ecosystem gone. Their government funding gone, and who knows when that will ever, any of that's ever going to come back. Especially because this is not going to end anytime soon. And because of that, it does make me think that like that's kind of the reason why. And actually, no, I think I do know because I do know there's like what a couple public opinion polling that had came out that had like a lot of people in this country were like totally lost confidence in the organization, but also like kind of all lost confidence in the sport because it's a part of the sport culturally. It just happens way too often. It's just a part of the culture of the
yeah.
sport, and I think people
Um,
are starting to realize that, and it's not at all acceptable.
no,
And I think people are like fed up with it now.
no.
So
There's
that's why I think at least. So yeah, the World Juniors are happening right now, but like, and nobody's watching it,
even though it's in
yeah,
Canada and it's in
even though it's in
Edmonton.
Edmonton, yeah, even though it's there, no one's really watching it. Even the Team Canada games, you have like 30% max capacity.
Tickets would be cheap though. That's all I hear.
And if there's any other team that's not Canada, there's like not even a single person who show up. Not even if it's like an America game. No one even shows up for that.
Yeah. 2003. I see this thing and I wanna. This was during a hearing about what happened in 2003. Apparently, it was 6 players who were part of Canada's World Junior team at the time having intercourse with a woman who was non-responsive. And it was a video. He was describing a video. The conservative MP.
Mm-hmm. That's
Yep.
actually something I've never heard of before. Maybe
Yep. CBC. It
I'll
was
have to look that up.
the article is Crisis on Ice: What You Need to Know About Hockey Canada Scandal by Ashley Burke on CBC News.
Mm-hmm.
Posted July 29th, last updated about a week ago, August 4th. A lot of
Mm-hmm.
a lot of things with that where which is sad because I bet you a lot of it goes unknown.
Yeah,
I
this
wouldn't
we're only just scratching the
I
surface. I think it's safe to say that I think we're only scratching the surface here when
yeah,
it comes to this. There's a lot more stuff that we'll probably never know happened.
because you can also think back. So that was 2018. That was
And and I mean
5
also at like much. And when I mean it was a whole sport fit across the entire sport, I do mean it. And the only one that will get much mention is like at the high level, like what we're going to talk about, like a much lower level, like just a minor hockey.
this is
Some sick
CHL, but
stuff that's happened there too.
then you look at all like other something like that where you get the Trevor Bauer case, which came out to be false accusations, which I'm not saying these are false accusations at all. I'm just saying that, like, you have it and you don't know about it until somebody says something, which is perfectly fine. Which, if you go through that, tell somebody. I'm telling you this right now, everyone, anyone who's watching this who has gone through it, tell somebody. It could get it fixed and done with, and you will still live with the trauma, but at least it won't go unheard.
And I mean, I'd also point out again, it's not
I don't support
limited to just this thing either. The Hockey Canada, because we had the whole thing with Kyle Beach last year.
That was his name. That's also what I was
with
thinking
him
of.
being like, that happened with like what, the Chicago Blackhawks assistant coach. That
Or he was also, I think he was sexually assaulted.
yeah, so it's sexually abused, and yet the team knew about it, but they kept the guy who did it. They covered it up. They kept the guy who did it because they were in the middle of a Stanley Cup run. So they kept him, and he was given the rating news out to quietly exit with no consequence.
Yep. And you have, like, probably stuff like that all the time where you don't know about it. And again, my stance, I don't want to say professional. What's the word? Where I see it is that is a messed up thing that shouldn't ever be dealt with in the sport of hockey, if not even just in life. But I'm Jonah, I believe you're with me on this, right? That shouldn't be talked about in, it shouldn't even be, I don't want to say talked about, but it shouldn't even be a thing in sports.
It shouldn't, but the problem is it's kind of a thing everywhere, but especially with hockey, because it's kind of the culture. I have to admit that's kind of like this, and despite that, there hasn't really been any accountability. Like, I think what's happened is that you had like some of those executives that were grilled by MPs, the parliamentary committee, but I think there was like one guy that took the I think like the chairman, but then all the other executives are still, including the president, like a lot, like they're still there. They won't leave. So there hasn't really been any accountability yet. Like, I think the whole organization, at least in this case, would have to be like overhauled to the core. But at the moment, I kind of haven't seen that happening yet. It hasn't happened, and I don't know if that will happen.
No. But again, if you're watching this and you've stayed this far and you have gone through something, I believe there's numbers online. I'm not gonna. I'll put them in the description. I'll stick with U.S. and Canada if I remember. If I don't remember, I'm sorry. But it's been a long week for me. But if I remember, I will put them in. If you've gone through something like that and you need to call someone, even just to get it off your chest, there'll be a number. If there are numbers, are there numbers?
Probably. I don't know exact numbers.
Salt line number. Oh, I clicked off of it. No. Seeing if there's a number. But my Wi-Fi is not working on my phone.
But I guess while we're on the World Juniors, I might as well just briefly go down what the kind of standings are so far. I might as well briefly do an overview of that, at least while we're talking about it. So it's kind of just started, but at the moment, I think the way it's going, you have like two groups. Group A, Canada has like won both of them easily. I think was it Czech Republic second, Finland third, Latvia fourth, and Slovakia last in Group A. Group B, the United States is currently in front with Sweden in second, Germany third, Austria fourth, and Switzerland in fifth. So that's what it is. Obviously, there's one very notable absence too. That's another team that was actually at the World Juniors back in December, but it's not there now. Very notable absence. I think Russia, for obvious reasons that I probably don't have to explain right now. Yeah,
which sucks
that
too,
I don't think I need to explain. Yeah,
going off of it,
Russia's not at the World Juniors. Yeah.
going off of it, which sucks because the hockey players have nothing to do with that.
Hmm.
They nothing to
Yeah.
do with that, which sucks because if you think about it, back when Russia in the Olympics wasn't Russia, they were ROC, whatever it was, and they had
Russian Olympic Committee, or
yeah,
the last couple ones were like ROC or
whatever it
yes,
was,
something.
where the
Basically they could still compete, but just they just but that was mostly for doping back then.
yeah,
And the whole kind of punishment was, oh, you can just not under the flag, or
which
you don't get to hear your anthem if you win gold, or stuff like that.
I think
You can't be
that's
called Russia either.
I think that's what possibly the NHL should have done. If you really think about it,
I
because
think it's rather complicated here, and I think that's mostly because I'm not going to get into too much of it, but basically it's because like they've weaponized the government essentially uses like sports as like propaganda to boost them in Russia.
that'd
Don't
make
want to
more
get into
sense.
too much of it. It's very political, but that's
That'd make more
kind
sense.
of what autocratic governments do a lot to
Woohoo.
like boost their image. You see, China does it a lot too.
Yeah.
So yeah.
But I think having them under not Russia but as a neutral maybe team North Asia,
Mhm.
where it's just literally all of Russia, because all of Russia is Northern Asia,
Mhm.
where you still have the Russian players who can be available to play, enjoy the time, work for it, but you kind of pull an ROC, and you don't have, if you win like gold, you don't have the whatever it is, you don't have the national anthem, you're not Team Russia,
Mhm.
but in the grand scheme of things, you're Team Russia.
Yeah.
But then you give.
I think what would have been better is if you just compete. If you're gonna have them compete, it would just be under like a neutral, like basically like a white. Because I think in tennis, the way they did it is that the Russian players could still compete, but just under like a white flag, or
Yeah,
just nothing really.
yeah,
No flag at all, really,
you get
whatsoever. It's basically nothing, I guess.
maybe a flag with a smiley face on it. But
I think if it's like a team sport, it gets a lot more complicated than
yeah,
than if it's just like an individual one. That's
yeah,
kind of the difference.
but I think you're just taking away the opportunity from the young players who have nothing to, they don't. I could say they have input in Russia, but at the same time, you don't.
It's also a deeply authoritarian country where you get into a lot of big trouble if you like openly criticize the government there. So
which
I don't really have that much.
Which I feel like a lot of them would just say, I'm here, happy to be able to play. Pucks in deep, crash the net, the basic hockey talk. But I think you're just taking that opportunity away from players who, Russian players are really people. Russian native players are really good. If you look at the greatest Russian players over the past however many years, a good amount of them are like from Russia. I just said the Russian players from Russia are all Russian. If you look at the top players of the year, a good amount of them are like top players every year. Good amount of them are like from Russia. Not all, not the Russian players from Russia. Some of them are Russian.
Well, okay, well that got
confusing. Anyways,
let's move.
But they're good. Give them a possibility to play, get their name out there, go from there.
I would let's see what else do we have. Okay, I'm not going to talk about that. Blue Jays getting destroyed 8-0.
That's
by
Blue Jays.
Right now. I'm not going to talk about that. Not been looking good.
I don't know. We're at 54 minutes. We can either call it now or we can talk something else. I'm just trying to think of off the top of my head what we could. We could go right back to baseball and talk about World Baseball Championship.
Briefly, we can talk very briefly about
United States are absolutely cracked. They have like every all-star.
Because I didn't really know everything about.
So these were. I'll pull it up. See if I can find it on Twitter. I'll pull up the named players for Team USA. So the name players, not in any. Who dare message me on Discord? Not in any order. There's Mike Trout, Bryce Harper, Trevor Story, Paul Goldschmidt, Nolan Arenado, and JT Realmuto. That's the only team that has been actually like saying players are.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's also all the way in, I think, like, March.
Yeah.
8th to March 21st,
So you still have
2023. So
time.
it's still a long way away. They're not going to announce their rosters now. They're probably going to do it, like, close to the, but I think, at least if I'm looking at the World Baseball Classic, the United States actually has only won it, like, once, even though I think they'd have the deepest field. But they
Yeah.
only won it, like, the last edition in 2017. There's been, like, 4 overall. They've only won, like, the most recent one. They had, like, the Dominican Republic win in 2014, and then Japan won the first 2 editions.
Yeah.
But I would think the United States would be the heavy favorite, especially if they can get, like, all their MLB All-Stars into it. Then, yeah, they would be, like, the heavy favorite, I would assume.
Yeah. Which is. Seems like that's where they're going with it. I just hope the jerseys look nice, let's be honest. I don't pay attention to the World Baseball Classic.
I don't know.
just
I mean, it
wanna see
hasn't
some
happened in,
jerseys.
like, 6 years. But yeah, Team USA, I think, will be a heavy favorite. If they don't win, I don't know what the hell they're doing.
It's I
Well, I
wouldn't
don't
be
know what they
surprised
do.
if it's like Puerto Rico or Dominican versus the
Although
States.
they're ranked, like, 5th in the world, so I don't know. But that could just be, like, other stuff. Because for a lot of the time, that might also include something like Olympics, which they didn't let MLB players go when they had that there, because it happened, like, right at the exact same time of the season.
Yeah.
So in that case, that's why you had teams like Japan and South Korea, because their leagues let their players play in the Olympics.
Yeah.
And that's why they usually do very well at that, and the United States doesn't do well.
Yeah. Quick little last peek on Twitter while I'm here. Seeing if I can see any sports. I don't know what we're gonna talk about next week. No idea what we're gonna.
I don't know.
I guess we kind of gotta see.
Well, we gotta wait and see. Maybe we can come back in a week and see what happened.
Yeah.
If it's anything, I don't know.
Oh, I guess we can quickly talk right now because I'm not sure if you heard. This is gonna be so brutal to talk about, but it's so stupid, and I gotta talk about it. The Jake Paul versus whoever it was. Yeah, I can see Jonah's reaction there.
Why are we talking about Jake
just
Paul?
Because I was listening. I'm not gonna lie. Okay, I'm not gonna lie. I listen to Logan Paul's podcast every once in a while, select episodes that actually interest me. I don't listen to it like daily, but I listen to it on my car ride to work.
No, I don't consider whatever Jake Paul is sports because they
No.
don't because whatever box match he plays in, it's not serious. They clearly like fix it.
But here's the thing.
Or
right?
at least in the case of Logan Paul, you had like they didn't even try to play a proper match with like
No, it
Floyd
was
Mayweather.
dodge. Anyways,
Yeah.
the guy whoever was supposed to.
Oh god,
face,
I forgot. Don't tell me who oh wait, I think I might have heard something about this, but don't tell me it's the guy who I think you're gonna mention.
So the guy who was supposed to face Jake Paul. The long story short, he couldn't match weight with Jake, which is weird because whatever.
Or no, I might be thinking about Logan Paul. I don't know.
So
I'll think about one of the Paul brothers, but I don't know which one.
Jake Paul got called out by another influencer. I'm not sure if you heard this.
Don't tell me. I think I know what you're talking about, but I don't want to know.
The quote-unquote top G, Andrew Tate.
Oh, fuck. I just swore.
That's fine. It glitched. We're fine. It knew. So
okay, good. Yeah. I really don't like him. He's like an incel, and he also is like a human trafficker.
He is.
Probably he should be in jail. I don't know, but he's like in.
No, he has 15 passports. No,
like that's why he moved to Romania because he was probably going to go to jail if he stayed in the UK. So he
15 passports.
If he was in America, so he went to Romania. But now he's being investigated by police for like human trafficking. He's a total scumbag. But anyways, go on. I don't know why, but he's
Absolutely.
got like a cult following on TikTok
And
of like
his
incels. So
podcast and his 8 podcasts and his whatever university. I see a lot of it on my For You page on TikTok, and a lot of it's just stupid. And
yeah,
the
yeah,
rest,
he's like one of the biggest people on TikTok. He's got like a cult following of like incels.
there's a couple things I agree with what he says, and it's not the women, his status or his opinion on women, or like
Mm-hmm.
how to handle things. I think there was one thing he said. I don't remember what it was, but it was like that makes sense. That's like the one thing I agree with. But he called out.
I thought I heard something like he wants to do a boxing match or something like that
Yeah,
with one of the Paul brothers.
he called out Jake and
Mm-hmm.
Andrew Tate before coming his whole top G. I want to say persona. I don't know if that's how he lives, but in real life he's kind of a nice guy. He kind of puts on a face. He called out Jake Paul in a video, whatever. He's like, I'll fight you in a couple weeks. I will unretire.
Mm-hmm.
He was a 4-time kickboxing champion before he had an eye injury or something. I don't know. I saw why he retired, but he was a kickboxing champion with his Bugatti. But he was a real fighter. He did boxing. He professionally did it, and he was pretty good. I think. Let me see if I can find.
I'm not gonna lie. I didn't know who Andrew Tate even was until like a couple weeks ago when he like blew up on TikTok, and I also saw like that he's like a lot of very disturbing stuff about him as well. That I like
Absolutely.
found out. Like I didn't even know who he was a couple years ago. Like even just like up until like a couple weeks ago. But once his name like blew up everywhere.
Let's see if I can find it. Andrews. So his professional kickboxing record. He is 43-9. So he's pretty good. He's not. He's not that. Like he's pretty good, and of course we're gonna talk about Jake Paul. Which, let's be honest, if it goes that far, and Jake Paul was talking about him on Logan's podcast about whatever. Because Jake Paul is Jake Paul, we all know he's whatever. When Logan becomes like this more sensible brother, that's saying something.
Yeah.
I will say I do respect Logan. I do. I think he's.
I don't really like. I don't really like either of them.
No, but I respect Logan because he's actually becoming pretty smart. Jake, on the other hand, I don't know.
He released one of the worst pieces of
it's every day,
music.
Bro, with the Disney Channel.
I put music in quotation marks because I refuse to call it music.
No, but you have him versus a 43-9 kickboxing 4-time champion. This will be if it goes down.
I thought it would because Jake Paul would only do like ones where he could easily actually has a chance to win. But then again, he said eventually hasn't done like kickboxing a long time. I don't know.
I think I saw he was 35 and he retired from it a while ago because of an eye injury.
Well, then I don't know, but maybe it's not actually.
I think that's why he's always wearing sunglasses. He mentioned it in a TikTok one time why he retired. But he was like calling him out and it's all stupid. Let's be honest. But Jake was supposed to fight KSI, who Logan previously fought and lost to twice, controversially, yada yada yada. If you don't know the story, literally just watch any of Logan's videos about it or KSI's videos about it.
I tried not to follow the
I did. I
but
found it interesting.
Like Logan Paul or Jake Paul boxing, but it's like impossible to escape it.
No,
it's everywhere.
But you are like, huh, okay. And then like it's so stupid in the grand scheme of things. It's like one doesn't want to fight, and one's saying he doesn't want to fight. The other one's saying they don't want to sign the contract. This, that, and this. If you're gonna do it, do it. Like, don't. Sooner or later,
do it.
People are gonna be bored. Just do it.
Do it.
Just someone sign a contract, send it over to the other one, figure the details out later. But with the Andrew Tate versus Jake Paul, which I really want to talk about because this is the battle of the egos.
I know, like, the most insufferable people, like, what, you got the guy who... What?
Wants to fight Conor McGregor and yet refuses to sign to do
Versus
whatever.
what? And yeah, versus a guy who's probably going to be in jail not too long for, like, rape or human trafficking. Yeah.
Or whatever.
Quite a showdown.
There's so much going on, which is so interesting. And I mean, would the fight be interesting? Yes. I think it'd be a pretty good fight.
It might seem interesting, but I try not. I'm gonna try. If it ever happened, I'm gonna try my best not to watch it because I don't really want to see.
Logan.
Although, if it's the case, if it somehow does go down, I will become the biggest Jake Paul fan that there ever is. If it somehow happens.
It's okay. Logan Paul has signed with the WWE. That was a couple months ago. He's actually really good.
He's like, okay. Logan Paul's in WWE.
Logan Paul's in WWE.
Oh, it's fitting because of his match. It's fitting because his matches are fixed and scripted anyway, so he'll fit right in.
Yeah, no, but he's actually like there. I was also listening to his podcast. It was with Triple H, but I'm not sure if you recognize him.
I think he was like a really great wrestler, like
really good
20-something years ago. Isn't he like the new guy that's in charge of that for like Vince McMahon resigned?
Yep, exactly. He was great wrestler.
He's like now the new head of the WWE. He was like a really good wrestler, I think, like 20-something years ago.
Even the last couple years, no, he hasn't been as good. But up until about 2010, even.
No, I only know that clip where like what was it? The Rock told him to like shut up, bitch thing. That one.
Shut up, bitch. Yeah. No, but he was talking about. Oh, I forget where I was going, but he was talking about. Or with Logan on his podcast and about selling it to the fan and this and that, and it was so interesting to listen to. I find interesting listening to wrestlers talk. I don't remember where I was going with the story originally, but I remember like if you listen to wrestlers talk, they always have stories. But Logan is going somewhere. Jake, I don't know. But we are at an hour and 7. Anything else you want to talk about, Jonah? Popping in that brain of yours.
Can't really think of anything.
No. Okay.
So, and we've been doing it, I think, long enough, so we could probably
wrap her up. All right. Do you want to sound it off?
Thank you all so much for watching. If you like this video, subscribe. If you didn't like this video, please subscribe. We want more subscribers anyways.
If you like the video,
you can
like the video. If you hate
can
the video,
viciously disagree with our opinions. You can viciously disagree with our opinions in the comment section down below.
Yeah, please go ahead, put your comments, your opinions in the comments. Go ahead, we'll read them. Even if we don't agree with you, that's fine. We want to hear them.
Oh, and also subscribe to our channel. Subscribe to Chicken Tank Gaming's YouTube channel. Subscribe to my channel, Frying Gaming. Links to our channels are both going to be in the description below.
Going back on the opinions, make sure it is camp appropriate. Sorry, I work camp jobs.
Yeah.
Make sure it's respectful.
Just respectful and appropriate. So like,
if it's not respectful, we will delete them and you will be sad.
No disrespectful thing. No.
Just be respectful. That's all we ask.
No like personal attacks or that. Yeah.
Just be respectful. But yes. So, thank you.
Yep.
And
bye.
Bye.